from SD Scorch. Can you ask him explain vector logic? And basically, vector logic is you take fighters and you have a protected grid you set up, and the fighters can occupy usually about 180 degrees of clear zone or safety zone out to about 200 to 300 miles. And then, of course, the carrier may not be the center of that at all. No telling where the carrier is. But you have aircraft that are on about probably 100-mile points out there for the 180 degrees. And you have tankers, and you use those to protect the high-valued unit, basically. So it's fairly involved. Takes a lot of airplanes. The carrier has to be what they call a flex deck, meaning that the carrier has to sit there in the wind the entire time to launch and recover aircraft to protect the air carrier or the high-value unit. And, you'll stay out there on station sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, depending on how your assets are and the threat coming in and that kind of stuff. You also got Aegis class cruisers below you that are taking up any kind of leakers that come through and get towards the high threat. And, it's fairly involved, fairly complicated. And F-14 was the perfect aircraft to enforce and implement vector logic. Okay, next question I have here is, from John Ellis, did you like flying the F-5? The F-5 is kind of a neat airplane. It's very, very impotent. If you're in a Piper Cub, you can beat the F-5. If you see the F-5, you beat it. It was kind of fun flying because you can just walk over, jump in it, and you're airborne in 5 minutes. There's nothing intricate about it or sophisticated, very simple. It almost never, ever went down. And about every 265 days, they bring it in the hangar, tear it apart like a monogram model, go through it, and then after a week, put it back on the line again, and you fly the crap out of it again. It was okay to fly. It looked tougher, it looked meaner on the ground than it did. And again, it's just a force multiplier. It's not anything eye-watering as far as performance goes. If you can be anything from a Piper Cub to a Cessna 150, you can beat the F-5. Next one I have here, how do you rate U.S. fourth generation compared to Russian? The Russians are real good at beating their chest. They say everything's fantastic and great, and they only build maybe 8, 9, 10 of them, and they say that's enough. But our aircraft have been combat proven, and compared to our aircraft, fourth generation compared to theirs, there's no comparison. Plus, we have very, very complicated and intricate command and control system that they do not have at all. So I would be more than willing to go against a Soviet fourth generation against my F-22 or even F-35.
No, that's wrong generation now.
Or fourth generation, I'm sorry. Okay. But even still, that F-15, F-16, the way we train, the way we AMRAAM missiles and stuff, where they're going to beat us on that is their AA-10 Charlie, the long-range, long-burn medium missile, has greater range than what the AMRAAM is. So we've got to use better tactics to come in and get closer and shoot them. But I'd still would not be afraid to go against a Fulcrum or flanker. So hope that answers that one, hopefully. Yves Borgers, hello, sir. How you doing? Northern Nightmare, and High Low. David, let's see here.
Scroll up
I'm trying to. Right yeah. I'm sorry, David Sandell. Your dad's a KC-135 pilot. Can you explain what it's done during a Navy leg? 135s, Navy. We're probe and drogue. We have our own probe, and we ask the Air Force to bring their big basket out. They're not too crazy about that because they have to reconfigure the 135. We call the 135 the Iron Maiden because we go out there and tank off that thing, and there's no take-up reel. The hose is about 8 feet long. It doesn't take up at all. It kind of bends. And more than one F-14 guy has had his canopy cracked or his probe door ripped off with hanging on the basket with the 135.
He's asking about what's done during a nav leg, not what it's about to do air tanking.
I don't know what he means by nav leg. I have no idea. I'm not really sure what you mean by nav leg. I have no idea. You know, but the 135s are out there to provide gas for the air wing, and they park out there someplace. We go over and tap them and get gas and come back and forth. Basically, that's what kind of what I get on your question there probably. Okay, I see a howdy here from Freckle Punny, Steve Lehman. Hi there. Okie. Go ahead. What's the matter? Huh?
Just read the question, Dan.
I am. Was there a noticeable power increase between the F-14A and the B models? Also, the TF-30 is terrible, as I've heard, compressor stall-wise. Okay, the A and the B, there was really no comparison in thrust between the two of them. The A was about 17,900 pounds of thrust. The B was around about 28,000 pounds of thrust. So big noticeable difference there. But every stall I had in the F-14A, I created myself. I didn't find the F-14A, find the TF-30 engines. I never lost a fight because of my engines. When I was fighting aircraft superior to me, as in i.e. F-15 or F-16, I beat him by flying a better airplane. He had a better airplane than I did, but I basically knew where my airplane performed the best, and I would beat him by flying my airplane's most efficient, turn rate and energy addition-wise myself. So, yeah, the F-14A was it stalled, but it stalled because guys didn't fly it in the right parameters, and they were heavy-handed or heavy-legged out there cross-controlling it. So, yeah, the TF-30 was kind of bad, but again, every crush stall I had, I caused myself. So, let's see here. David Smith, John Stash talked about maneuvering with split engine power. Was that really a thing? No, because you didn't really maneuver with split engines. I mean, if you go to idle on one and burn the other one, you're asking to put yourself in extremis. So, anytime you're out there fighting someone, you never have enough thrust. So to use differential thrust out there fighting someone is not a technique that's will enhance your survivability with anybody else. So that really was not anything to kind of talk about or even do or think about. Because the F-14 was not centerline thrust. It was enough split back there in the back that it made a big difference. But you needed every pound of thrust you could get. Okay, here, Freckle Punny. How realistic and unrealistic, probably more of the latter, are aviation movies, especially Top Gun. Top Gun itself, when I went through Top Gun in 1980, which is about 5 years before the movie was ever made, Top Gun back then pretty much was kind of like the movie. It put the who into it. You go out and fight somebody at Top Gun, and they would put the who into it, and then their game plan was go out there and kick the crap out of you and basically come back and let you know about it. It's a lot more generic now, a little more of a lot less of the who, and they talk about the goods and the others. The movie itself, there's never a Top Gun trophy, because had there been a Top Gun trophy that had guys getting killed trying to win it, so that was never an issue, never come up. But the movie followed Top Gun probably in around the early 80s or 1980 than what it really did later on. So, there's some similarities to it, but the guys at Gun School did a great job with the movie because they controlled it. They kept Hollywood out of it, and they did all the flying scenes themselves, and the choreography stuff, the flying scenes were all done by Rat Willard and the guys out there doing a great job. Okay, Joe D777. Assuming equal pilots, can you give your opinions of how the F-16N versus F-14AB was in a BFM dogfight? Paul Nickel and Joe Naraki both flew F-16N and said Tomcat was simply no match. It was. I know Naraki. I know him very well. He was behind me in Tomcats, and he went to the airlines early. I know him. I fought plenty of the toughest F-16s to fight were the Navy F-16s. The guys flown by VF-45 down there because they'd fly them clean. They knew where to perform the airplane and not let you get them in that kind of a nose-low hole where the F-14 could perform well. I flew against F-16s and A's and against the Air Force and usually go out there and beat the crap out of them because mostly the F-16 guys, Air Force-wise, are air-to-mud guys. They don't train very much in air-to-air, and usually when they do, they're carrying tanks out there, which kind of limits their ability. So you're going up against an F-16N. Most of the time, you're going to win against an F-14A and a B. I think when I was flying the F-16N myself, I had one guy in a B get a snapshot on me once. The rest of the time out there, pretty well gave them all a black eye. It's because most of the time your fleet aviators don't know how to fly the F-14 where it flies the best in its best environment and best performance envelope. And that's where you beat people, because most of the time pilots are, both sides of the fence pretty average. And but one guy knows how to fly his aircraft the best and the best performance envelope. He's going to win almost every time. Okay, here. Hell's Phoenix missile system was always fascinating to me, but I heard that pilots really fired them because of how expensive they were. What are your thoughts on the Phoenix? The Phoenix was designed for one thing, and that was outer air war battle against the horde of Badgers and Bears coming at the carrier. That's just strictly the reason they were designed, and we had them. Although the Phoenix was a very, very good, what we call an ACM active shot. If you carried a Phoenix into, say, an air-to-air mission where you're going against fighters, there was a no escape zone at 10 miles. You could shoot the Phoenix, and it was like Pac-Man. You fired it, and it was a launch and lead missile right there and then. So, yeah, you're right. A lot of guys wouldn't shoot it because it was expensive. But, again, I didn't like carrying the Phoenix unless I was in the area there where I knew I was going to be able to use it against something that'd be useful for. When the Phoenix first got developed, we were designed to shoot the carriers of the missiles, AS-4s and stuff and all that, out at 200 miles. And they started realizing that the missiles themselves, now being of a smaller square, 1 square root, square meter target, the Phoenix wasn't going to be fast enough fusing-wise to hit the missile. So then we started flying around with AIM-54Cs clipped. That's what they call it. They were clipped because the warhead was clipped. So basically, once it got near anything, it would explode. And that's how we basically were able to start shooting down AS-4s and that kind of stuff inbound to the carrier. But again, as I said before, it was a great ACM active shot against something that, 10 miles on in, especially going against a known bad guy. I want to get 1,000 pounds of that thing off my airplane quick. Hopefully that answered your question. Let's see here. Great, Mike's. Let's see here.
You gotta scroll up this one. Scroll up a little more, Dad. Scroll up a little more. There, right there.
Could and should the F-14 have been upgraded for further service today in favor of F-15A Super Hornet? Yeah, it was available, but the politics and politics controls everything. I had one of my really close friends, Pete Williams, was the F-14 class desk at that time, and he fought 3 admirals that were all attack admirals. I won't say their names, but he was going against them as a captain against 3 admirals, and every day they would change the numbers, and it was basically done deal politics-wise that McDonnell Douglas was going to get the nod, and the Hornet Mafia or A7 Mafia was going to push the Hornet through and the death of the F-14. So we got the F-14 today. It'd be a great, great airplane. Tomcat 21 on paper, and that's as far as it got, was an awesome airplane. But again, politics took over, and about 93, 94, certain people, now again, won't mention their names, spelled the death of the F-14, and that was it. It was basically going to be at the door. Actually, Desert Storm actually hastened the early death of the F-14 because then it became very, very apparent how lacking we were in electronic upgrade stuff that the F-15, F-16, and the Hornet had. So that wasn't a good deal for us, but it's a great airplane, and it proved itself to be a great bombing airplane later on in life. But the death knell was already sounded, so it was done. Okay, here, Swartz, John Ellis. Phil Granfield, hey, Okie, you were one of my instructors in flight school. Thanks for not giving me a down, filthy. Yes, Phil, I remember you very much. In fact, Frog Burgess and I still talk about you off and on there, buddy. He remembers you big time. He's a good friend of mine. Lives very close to me, and he and I are very, very close. So, yes. So, Northern Nightmare, how did the F-14 compare in DAC with the F-16? DAC, I assume that's probably what, ACM, I guess, probably. I'm not sure what DAC means. Again, I want to drive the F-16 into kind of a hole where he cannot get his energy and keep his energy up. Me, I perform best around 300 knots. The F-16, his best quartering speed's around 4.25. So you go figure that out right there. He's 4.25, I'm 325. I'm going to be inside his turn. And I'm going to keep the pressure on him so he can't unload and start driving around, getting his knots back, because he has excellent energy addition availability in the airplane. And once I get him beat slow, I'll start driving the fight uphill and now getting the vertical fight going, where anytime he starts trying to run from me, then I swap in, go on him, lock him up, and shoot him with a missile. Get him down slow and then hopefully gun the guy. Again, Navy-flown F-16 will not allow you to do that. He'll stay hard and fast out there. He'll start driving the fight himself vertically, and makes the two eggshells get a little larger with each other. It makes it kind of hard to get to him, and tough fight. Again, always the F-16Ns are always harder to fight than what the F-16As were in the Air Force style. Let's see here. Would you be interested in trying out the soon-to-be published F-14 computer? Yeah, I'd be a Zorch, Scorch. Yeah, I'd be curious about that. My number 2 son is involved with that a little bit. And I'm kind of curious. I'm very impressed with the graphics that they're coming out with. Awesome graphics. I can't tell the real airplane from something else. So, yeah, exactly. I'd be curious. Okay, George, what's your opinion of the Raphael and the Typhoon?
That means the Royal Air Force.
Oh, Royal Air Force? Okay, I asked my Raphael. Okay, okay, let's see. I lose it?
Yes, you scroll.
Wait, this ain't so simply pumping. It goes right by. Hang on here, buddy.
It's just regular mouse.
Huh?
It's just regular mouse. Right there. There's a question. George TSR2.
Oh, right here. Okay, got you. What's your opinion on the RAF and the Typhoon? Typhoon's been around for a long time. When I went over to War College in 1990, we visited British Aerospace, and they were just starting to fly the Typhoon then with actually GE 401 engines out of Hornets, and until they got the Rolls-Royce engine squared away. It's a very capable airplane, but again, it's Delta Wing, and I'm quite sure that Super Hornets and well-flown Hornets probably do well against it, and I would have no qualms going against it in a guns-only F-14 against a Typhoon. But again, the Brits are excellent drivers. Some of my closest buddies and best fighter pilots are RAF guys, and they're always a handful. They're great guys, great drivers, all of them. Okay, Colonel Pete Pettigrew, I'm guessing you flew with him at some point. No, I never did. He was older than me. He's an old guy. I knew of him. I knew his backseater, Mike McCabe, who was just a stash instant with him when Pettigrew got his MIG kill in VF-114 back in the day. I just know of him. He's also an airline guy. He retired. All these guys retired. I didn't really retire. They got out of the Navy, went to the airlines, and they flew reserve. So that's how I kind of knew Pete Pettigrew. He's a reserve guy and airline type guy. So that's how I kind of know him a little bit. He's probably more famous as an airline guy than he was a fighter guy. Okay, ZSD Scorch. I'm sure a lot of people would love to get an F-14 guy's impression of how close the sim came to real life. I assume.
A statement, not a question.
Okay, well, all right.
Here.
Yeah.
Mike JF.
Okay, Mike JF, did you often work or fly exercise against the British much? I remember one time when I was at VF-43, we went against the RAF Sea Harriers, and they were a lot of fun. But a Harrier is not a hardcore ACM airplane, even though these guys had great air-to-air radars. It's not supersonic. and we'd go out there with a A4 Super Fox or an F-14N and pretty well have our way with them. But again, the Brits are excellent drivers, excellent people to work with, fantastic pilots, and I just love working with the Brits. So they're the best. Okay, Arturo, what was your most complicated situation with a failure, and how did you resolve it? Probably the one I had the most was my second cruise in the Indian Ocean. We're out there in the Kitty Hawk during what they call a monsoon season, which is basically from like April through about September, where the sea states always the deck's moving about 30 feet plus or minus, and the visibility is probably less than a half mile. That's daytime. And I came in one night in my Tomcat, and the deck was moving big time, because you can always hear that with the LSOs where they're talking. And as I came in, I could see the deck had dropped below me. So I pulled my nose up a little bit to kind of set the hook a little better, because I really wasn't crazy about going around in a bolter. And I actually hit tail hook first, which bounced up into my engine nacelle. And then the tail hook stuck in the engine nacelle, which I did not know. And I ended up boltering. I came around, bolted 3 more times. Finally, the LSOs are going like there's no sparks, because every time you bolt, there's always sparks. And I came around, did 2 emergency tanks. Got an A7 checked me over, said your tail hook's stuck in your engine nacelle, and it won't come down. I said, yeah, okay, great. So I made like 3 more passes trying to get the hook to maybe bounce down. That wasn't the case. I tanked 3 more times. All they had available was 8.7, so all I could get gas-wise was about 1,500 pounds, which wasn't very much. I was down about 2,000 pounds. We're off the coast of India, and there's no place to go, working blue water ops. So they said, okay, you're going to go to Masira. It's too far to go to Diego Garcia, so you're going to go to Masira, and we're going to have an A6 come up and tank you. So the A6 was going to come up to me, had an unsafe nose gear. They trapped him, pinned his nose gear, filled him up full of gas, and shot him off. And then he flew below me. I joined on him with his gear down, and I did probably the first ever and the only ever tanked off an A6, and he was dirty, meaning his gear was down. That was interesting, because the basket was moving about 30 feet left and right. Of course, this is naturally at night, pitch black. I was down about 2,000 pounds of gas, and I managed to basically kind of corner the hose up against his right main mount, and I got in the basket the first time, took on about 16,000 pounds of gas. He had me back out and cycle the hose, and then I plugged him again and got another 3,000 pounds more gas. And then from there, I flew off to Masira, which no one knew what the situation was. So I said, if you go to Masira and you can't get in there, go over to Seab International. If you can't get in there, then we're not sure what to do. So I went off, did a bingo profile. They launched an A6, an E2, an S3 to be comm relay for me back to the ship. I was carrying 1 Phoenix, 2 Sparrow, 2 Sidewinders, and a full gun. So I was armed to the teeth, and I flew off to Masira, having no idea what was going to happen. And I got I was about 1,800 miles away from Masira. As I got within about 250 miles, I gave them a call on the radios on the tower frequency, and a good British voice came up and said, "Roger, mate, we're ready for you. Can't wait till you get here." And I landed there at Masira with about 12,000 pounds of gas, which is way, way heavy, but I wanted to keep the gas. And I rolled off to the very end, turned off, shut down. I couldn't see anybody. They had lights shining in my face. And I came down, got out of the airplane, and stepped on a Brit who handed me about a king-size Old Foster's beer right there at the very start. I was elated. I was overjoyed big time. It was a good deal. I'd been airborne 9.5 hours, and I tanked 8 times. So I was a tired puppy dog. Next question here, was the F-14 retired too early? The answer was yes. But again, politics. Certain people in the Navy had convinced the Navy that by getting rid of the F-14 early, you can save money and buy more Hornets. So that's what they did, and it went away. And the best airplane ever was probably the F-14D, and it went away to be on sticks and museums and backyards and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, you're right. F-14 was retired way too early, and again, politics controls everything. What are your thoughts on the F-14 becoming the multi-role bombcat to partially replace the A6E? It was the best platform. I mean, nobody else could carry 4 2,000-pound LGBs but the Tomcats. And for a short while in the Indian Ocean during the Desert Storm, the Tomcat was the true strike fighter, because Hornets, they couldn't carry 4 2,000-pounders. They probably could barely carry 2. And with us carrying the FLIR pod out there on the starboard station, we could put that 2,000-pound LGB right in your hip pocket. So it was an excellent bombing platform. Technology needed to catch up with it. It did in the D, and it was an awesome airplane and a great airplane to have, and the first real true strike fighter. Let's see here, F-14 good airframe for dropping bombs or mainly air-to-air task jet. Yeah, it was a good do everything, good strike fighter. So it's good. Yeah, excellent. Okay, is it true that when having the Phoenix equipped, the F-14 would get really hot inside the cockpit due to the cooling of the Phoenix? That really wasn't the case. Certain time periods in the Indian Ocean, mostly during the monsoon season when it's about 100 plus degrees on the deck, what we would do is we would not turn any systems on in the cockpit for the Phoenix or for the Sparrow, even for the AUG-9. We turn on just enough to get our alignment, then we get airborne and let the air kind of keep things cool, then turn stuff on. And that's only because the Indian Ocean the way it was. Later on, they got a little better AUG-9 pumps and such in there. It wasn't a factor, and if you stop carrying Phoenix, it's not a factor. So not really. It wasn't really hot inside the cockpit due to the cooling of the Phoenix. That was never part of the deal. So let's see here. Somebody asked me about do you like Minecraft? I have no idea what it is. Okay, here. What's the fastest speed you have flown at, and in what aircraft? Also, was it easy to get the F-14 supersonic? Oh yeah, fast aircraft was probably Tomcat. I had the A out about 2.3. I've taken the F-14 to 70,000 feet. I've taken the F-16 to 75,000 feet. I had the F-16 at 2.0 plus. When you're that high and that fast, it's like driving in your car 60 miles an hour. It doesn't seem like much to get near a cloud, and then it gets pretty cool. But yeah, I've been high and fast in those, and the F-14 has no problem. I mean, I've done flybys the carrier like 1.3 at like 100 feet, and the airplane's just accelerating. It just wants to go faster and faster and faster, and that's both with an A and a B. In fact, in some regards, the F-14A was faster because of the ram air effect of the TF-30s. It liked air, and the more air you could pump in there, the faster it got, the more thrust you went. So, because the F-14A was a beast down low, like below 10,000 feet. Okay, what was the peak G you pulled in the F-14? Well, when I was going through Top Gun, at one time, it required 12 foot-pounds to move the stick in the Tomcat. So it was a pretty heavy stick. As I was going through Top Gun, the airframes guys had an airframe change to come through and change the stick load to about 8 pounds. Well, they didn't tell me that. And that day I was out on a Top Gun mission against the school, and somebody called a shot on me. And I slapped on 12.5 Gs so fast, make your head swim. And the Rio and I basically kind of came up out of the cockpit floorboard going like, whoa, what was that? And of course, the guy gave me continued because there's a great, ATOL break, as they call them. That's when I came back and I asked what happened with the airframes. Oh, yeah, I've got to tell you, sir, we changed the foot-pounds in the Tomcat. And, you found out today, didn't you? And I said, yeah, I sure did. Wow. So 12.5 in Tomcat's the most I pulled there. I saw 9 all the time in the F-16. F-14, it likes G's. It can take them. You know, I know 6.5 was the max, but I routinely exceeded that when I'm fighting guys out there because you have to sometimes. Okay, considering the huge thrust and wing loading advantage F-14BD had over the F-16N, which were stripped out for the Navy, how would you have played to your strengths F-14BD against F-16N? Well, like I said, I would F-14A, B, because I've fought F-16s and those. I would keep the fight tight. I wouldn't allow the F-16 to go two circle. I'd go one circle against the F-16 and keep him loaded up so he can't accelerate. And then once I get him down slow, I start working the fight to the vertical. And it might take me a couple of loop X's to get that done because if I get him loaded up on his G meter or his G in the F-16, he can't go vertical. He can't do a loop over the top because the airplane won't let him do it. So I'd keep him loaded up, start working the vertical, and then once that happens, start separating the two vertical legs. And now I'm working above him, at which now he can't run away, and I'll be coming down nose on him, going to guns and getting a good gunshot high to low. Hope that answers that. Thanks to the earlier answer, Tom Cooper wrote a book with Iranian pilots claiming 130 F-14 kills versus Iraq. The Iranian government says 45. Western FS is 4 to 5. Which number do you think is best? I read one of those Squadron signal books here maybe about 10 years ago that was written by a guy that spent time with the Iranians over there, and it's about the Iranian F-14s. I think probably 45 or a little better is probably closer to the real numbers. The Iranians got pretty smart. They would take the F-14, run it in there basically and sniff, not having the AUG-9 off, run a couple about four Phantoms in front of them, lure the Iraqis in there, chasing the Phantoms, and the Tomcats would turn their radars on and then drill them. And that seemed to be a pretty good tactic, of which the Iraqis got very aware of, because during the Desert Storm War, excuse me, anytime your radar came on a raw gear of a MiG-21 or 29 or whatever, they would immediately run away. And because of the 5,000 watts of the AUG-9 would just overpower their Serena gear in their airplane, they would know what direction we were coming from, so they immediately run back home. And they'd go away. You might be 40 miles away, but your radar would light up their Serena gear and they'd run. So they had a very, very healthy respect for the F-14 in Iraq. Did you ever fly the F-4? No, I did not. Never flew the F-4.
Skip.
What's saying jumps, Bubba? So
scroll up a little bit. Scroll up. Right there. She's on the F-35.
Okay. Okay, what is your views on the F-35 and its capabilities? In my early airline days, I had a pretty good side job with Lockheed Martin, and I'd go down to Crystal City, where I live here in Washington, D.C., and I would fly the F-35 simulator. And I flew it from the early days, just putting it together, to up until about 2 years ago. And, excuse me, my personal opinion is it's a very, very capable airplane, of which we need. Yeah, I know it's expensive, but it can do things that the Super Hornet cannot even think about. And stealth is actually the way to go. And it's typical new airplane that's got some growing pains. If you listen to the press, they're going to badmouth everything that comes across. Too expensive, too hard, too broken. But that's basically the way all new airplanes start out. And if you ever talk to guys that have flown the airplane, they swear by it. And that's not a political view. That's because they like flying it. So I'm a big proponent of the F-35. In fact, my young son, who's 21 years old, goes off to Navy here this summer, and that's what he wants to fly himself, and he goes through pilot training. So I'm very much for the F-35 myself. Okay, here. What kind of fighters should the Canadian force buy? I guess you guys got a bunch of Hornets, so I guess you guys are in the Hornet business probably. So, I know the F-35 is expensive. You guys seem to like the Hornet, so I guess probably stick with the Hornet and maybe go to the Super Hornet maybe. I'm not sure exactly. What is the purpose of pilot exchange programs with Air Force and Navy? Why train Air Force to land on carriers? Who gets selected? When I was in the RAG, VF-101, which is the training evolution for Navy guys and Tomcats, we had Air Force guys come through. There are always a lot more Air Force guys wanting to go to a Navy squadron than Navy guys to go to an Air Force squadron. When a Navy guy goes to, say, an F-15 or F-16 squadron, that pretty well screws him career-wise because he gets a one-of-one fitness report, which compared down the road to his contemporaries in his year group, he looks pretty bad. And unless someone's in there to brief that for the board, he'll get overlooked and get bypassed. Air Force going to Navy, they have a different system. It doesn't bother them. And the only thing there is that a lot of times the Air Force guys don't like going to the boat, and some of them won't go to the boat. If they won't go to the boat, they don't go any further with their squadron and go anywhere, so they get left. We had an Air Force exchange guy in the RAG, VF-101 with me, great guy, really good guy, but he had no interest to go to the boat. He's an F-15 guy. He said, I'm not going to the ship. He never understood how to fly angle attack, which is you live and die by in the F-14 or any airplane, actually. So he never went to the ship. But we had RAF guys that were awesome ball flyers and went to the ship. We had several other Air Force guys. One of them, Norm Sipe, who wanted to be a 3-star, awesome driver. He went to VF-41, CQ day and night. A lot of times the Air Force guys can do okay daytime, but nighttime pretty well separates the rock stars from the groupies, and the Air Force guys will be day-only guys. And that's not too cool. So, all kind of depends what the guy's interested in doing and how well he does. Can you speak to pilot radio protocols a bit? I've always wondered if there's protocol to say there's a disagreement about tactics mid-combat. Does pilot have final say? No, it's kind of a joint thing between the two of you. I mean, it's experience level. Usually always put an experienced pilot with a youngster in the back seat, an experienced RIO with a youngster in the front seat, and hopefully over time that they'll kind of meld those abilities together a little bit. But my first cruise I flew with a guy that had buku Vietnam time. He'd been shot at by MIGs and chased MIGs, the whole 9 yards, so he was very combat experienced. So it was kind of a growing pain with him because I was just learning. I was just a puppy dog. And I listened to him a whole lot, sometimes to the detriment, but a lot of times it was good, and I learned. And then when he came back through the RAG, when I was an instructor about 10 years later, he had to listen to me. I told him several times to ride in the back seat and shut up. So, it works out. And there's the protocol, all rank goes away in the cockpit. If you sit up there, so yes or no, sir, in the cockpit, not going to survive. So you got to listen both ways and let the information flow both ways and learn from each other. And you're never too old to learn. Always remember that. Let's see. Sure, this is a memory. Easiest adversary you fly against: the Trappist, Snodgrass, Capablo. I know Hoser. Hoser is a great guy. I love him. I've known him forever. He kind of grew into a legend in his own mind a little bit. Capablo never really was an adversary driver. He was a Phantom guy with the VX4. I know him very well. I'll say he's an okay stick. I don't really know. Snodgrass, I know very, very well. Reputation far exceeds everything out there. He's probably one of the most gifted drivers in the world, but would I want my son to grow up and be like him? The answer is no. That's all I'll say. Did you fly with FLIR pods in the aggressor role? FLIR pods have been used up against F-22, F-30 right now. They never flew with any FLIR pods. They started later on putting jamming pods on some of the adversary stuff to go out against F-22 and F-35. But, they have the ability to just switch frequencies. And so whatever you're jamming, they can jump around it. Or they can go in there and go sniff, and they'll see no jamming. So a lot of stuff like that's pretty much nebulous to them. So they work out real well. Okay, how would you compare the Hornet to the F-14A being a dogfight? God damn this thing. Dogfight in a horizontal or vertical, who was superior? Well, I can tell you right now, Tomcat's superior in the vertical fight, hands down. Energy addition rate in the Tomcat is superior to both a Legacy Hornet and a Super Hornet. Those guys would want to get you slow in a real tight fight and let their digital flight controls take over and try to point their nose at you. The way you'd beat them is in the ROE by going like, okay, let's go guns only, boys. And now that takes all that stuff away because now he can get slow all he wants. But if I'm working above him and coming down high to low on him, he doesn't have the ability to point at me all the time. If I'm giving him Category 4 missiles where he can always point at me, and no matter what airspeed he is, he's going to always win because he can basically slow down faster and park and point his nose at me. So all depends what you're carrying wise on the ROE, depending on kind of what you're going to fight. Are you completely incorrect?
No, they're having a conversation with each other.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What do you fight?
Next one is this one here, Freckle Puny.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Given the RAF could have gone with the F-14 in the 1980s, would it have been a better buy than the Tornado F-3? Yeah, it probably would have been, but very, very expensive. The Brits didn't have the cash, the money, and it's so funny. I remember that my two RAF buddies, Pete Legg and Stu Black, they both got 1,000 hours in the Tomcat when with me and VF-101. They go back to Coningsby to be instructors on the very first Tornado rag there. And meanwhile, they're going through the school to fly the Tornado. And the Brits, British Aerospace is telling them that, well, you got to move the wings manually. And so Pete and Stewie go, well, how come you can't design them to be auto? Well, that's incapable. You can't do that. No airplane has that. And they go, well, the F-14 does. No, it doesn't. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. So they had to prove to their own people the F-14 had auto wing sweep due to CADC. And once again, the Brits are kind of behind the barn there in that deal and had to use the wings manually. So, they were still thinking like 1960s technology vice where the F-14 was. So they couldn't afford to buy the F-14 anyway. Okay. It's a lot about the pilot and how well they...
That's not a question. Next one down.
Sorry.
Down. There. What is the feel of the first carrier landing?
Okay. First feel of the first carrier landing is a cross between an orgasm and a car wreck. If you are a geek or nerd, don't understand the first part of that, then I guess we're kind of lost in conversation. But it's pretty dramatic. My first trap, when I went through in 1973 in the T2 and basic jets, the fuel crunch was on, so nobody CQ'd. Then it came to advance in the A4, and they had us right out in the back seat with some other jabroni in the front to get our first trap and cat. This guy trapped, and I was all over the back seat. My head bounced off the dash. My knees hit the dash. I'm going like, holy sheep shit, what just happened? And then about 15 minutes later, we go off the front end in a cat shot. I blacked out in the cat shot. Woke up passing about 500 feet with the guy asking me, hey, how'd you like that? And I go like, holy tamale, I got to go do this. Went back to Beeville. We landed, and 1 hour later, I was back out there myself, doing it myself. So, it comes time to put on the big boy pants, you go do it. So it's pretty dramatic. Let's see. Is there a plane?
Yeah, just scroll up. Scroll up a little bit. Scroll up a little more.
I'm trying to.
One more. There, right here. Steve Lehman.
Okay, is there a plane that you
would... One above that. Yes, by your cost.
Oh, loving your answers. Okie, can I ask how you got it? Well, it's real simple there, pal. My call sign, Okie. I'm from Oklahoma, and I'm not from Muskogee, so don't relate that to the song, but I'm from Oklahoma, and that just kind of, my first day, and I got in a fighter squadron. Hey, you're Okie, as far as it went, right there. So usually your call signs are not too glamorous. It's not like they make out on TV or other kind of bullshit crap. It's usually something you're kind of embarrassed about. But, hey, you live with it, and you move on and do your thing. It's gotten a lot more PC now, to coin that phrase. But back in my day, it wasn't real PC. I had guys that puke, suck, I won't tell you what his last name was. Other stuff kind of going along there. So, that's how I got mine anyway. Is there a plane that you would have liked to fly other than the ones you did? Not really. I like flying what I flew. I mean, I was very fortunate, very happy. And, it's like going to a dance and you got a pretty hot chick in your arm over here. If you see something else you want, you go to it. But I never felt that way. I always felt I had the best looking date in the whole town, and I didn't feel like flying anything else. So, yeah, not really. What was it like landing a carrier in the dark for the first time? Well, that's, I basically said before going to the carrier, it was like the orgasm in a car wreck, but a night the first time is strictly a car wreck. You're out there, it's pitch black. All you look out 3 miles in front of you for the ship. You don't see anything because if you're looking too early, you're not going to see anything. It's going to screw you up. It's all instruments all the way down to basically 3/4 mile, call the ball. And even then, you're still on the instruments. And it takes mental discipline to keep doing this stuff. And you keep flying the ball all the way to touchdown, and the landing should be a surprise for you, one way or the other. So it takes a mental toughness to fly around the ship, especially fly around at night. And nighttime is where, as I said before, the rock stars and the groupies are separated big time.
Here, I'm gonna get you a glass of water, Doug.
Okay. Did you ever get to fly any classic aircraft, warbirds? Nope. I've got, I don't have probably 50 hours of prop time, so I'm really a rookie when it comes to that kind of stuff. I wish I did, but I don't. Okay, which fighter was your favorite of all the ones you flew and did DACT in? Well, I tell you, the F-14 was a blast. I liked it. Precision. You had to fly smart. You had to fly really know the numbers. I also enjoyed the F-16 because basically I was very fortunate. The way I flew it, it was unbeatable. I mean, I flew a smart airplane, and I knew what the other guy was going to do. You got to know your threat. If you don't know what he's capable of doing, then you could be out there waste your time. So, you just don't show up to gunfight and not have any idea what the other guy's bringing with him. So I go with an F-15 or F-16 or whatever out there. That fight is basically determined in the brief with the ROE of, what you're going to use out there. If he's going to go Cat 4, my whole mindset is changed as far as missiles and stuff go, because I know that he can point at me at any time. So I'm going to basically kind of fight the same way to point at him. That's why basically you go out there and give the guy maybe 2 or 3 engagements of, normal missile stuff. The last one's kind of a go for it, fangs out, guns only. And guns only is where you put the who into it, and you decide at that point there kind of who gets to go home in the break and who goes home in a straight in. Let's see here. How would NATO do in a fight with the Russians? Boy, I don't know. The French are good drivers. The Brits are good. The Germans are good. The Russians, I think they beat their chest pretty well. They make it sound like they're 10 feet tall, but I think the first day our command and control would take them down. They're not real good at command and control if they're any good at all. They may fly some pretty neat airplanes that do some pretty wowing stuff in an air show, but those are all tactically insignificant against a threat. So I think they'd be probably surprised themselves that a lot of times Ivan and Igor probably wouldn't be coming home. What was the funniest nickname someone earned? Yeah, like I said before, we had one guy in the squadron. His name was Suck. His last name was Cock. Let's see here. Another guy's was Puke. I can tell you basically how he got that. He had a tendency to get drunk and then puke every place. Let's see what else here. Oh, we had another guy in the squadron, Brick, because he was part of the air intake through the mouth IQ ratio. If you breathe through your mouth, you're probably pretty low IQ. And in Brick's case, he basically was using a snorkel. So yeah, that's some of them right there at the top of my head. Concur with your snort comments. Great stories. You're still there, Phil. Sorry, buddy. Let's see here. Did you discuss diversity training and mission briefs? That's highly important these days. Is that like talking about lactating females and menstrual periods. Other than that, I'm not sure.
Let's go back down there.
Oh yeah. Who else? Where else?
Louis Fair right there.
Okay. During in-flight refueling, can you activate autopilot to keep you level and tap the stick to fine-tune side to side, up, down, or is it strictly manual? If you use your autopilot to try to tank, you'll immediately own the ass end of the tanker. That's all done by manual, no shit, fine-tune. That's the only way you can do it. Taking off a basket with the take-up reel is actually not too bad. But you use the what I call the Iron Maiden KC-135. That's why I call it the Iron Maiden, because more than one guy has ripped the basket off, gone down his intake, cracked his canopy, cracked the radome. It's not real easy, especially in turbulence air. But I've tanked 135s at 30,000 feet. I've tanked A6s at 35,000 feet. I've tanked guys down at 1,000 feet. Sometimes you don't have a choice where you got to get the gas because you're an extremist yourself. So you do the best you can. If you're having problems, you get good in the process. It's a lot of OJT. Phil's still there. Glad you're still there. Nasty. Let's see here. Did you ever have private TF-30 misbehave on you? Sorry if it's reading. Yeah, I did, but as I said before, the TF-30, every compression stall I had, I caused myself. Meaning that I was on a guns defense, and I'd slap on probably 7.5 Gs and a rolling, twisting, left bank, and then bottom rudder roll inverted, pitch straight 90 degrees nose down. Guess what? I would get a deedle in my headset where I stalled the motor. I did that myself. Was it the reason for me to immediately go, holy shit, and jump out of the airplane? No. You go through your procedures and your training, pull the engines out of burner back to mill, let it clear itself, and you're back in there again. I mean, it's just what you did. I never believed to let my engines be the reason I lost something. Later on in life, when I go out to OAG, which are operational, OAG design stuff for the F-14, I kind of switched and went from getting engines to give me better software, give me better radar, give me better raw gear, because I wouldn't convince the engines were. I mean, they were a problem but you had shitty guys flying shitty airplanes, and Nasty will tell you that. And I was more in favor of getting rid of the shitty guys. Hey, you can't hack it. There's the door. The world needs ditch diggers. We need guys to sell shoes. But the bleeding heart people said, no, we need digital flight controls and need the bigger engines. And so that's why you got the engines. And, we still have the same old radar, the same old raw gear that, it's pretty unsettling when you're fighting an F-15 out there and the fight starts with him 90 degrees to go in your wing line because your Rio couldn't find him. That was very, very frustrating. I did not like that. So that's kind of my take on the TF-30s there, basically. Let's see here. Why was the Tomcat so good in a vertical fight? Was it thrust or great wing loading? Yeah, actually, it's both. I mean, even the A, as you're getting the aircraft, in a hard turn, and you make out that turn to go vertical, you unload the aircraft, you go right over to your angle attack, and you pull no more than 12 units AOA through the vertical. And once you got it vertical, how do you know you're vertical? You look at the left side and see the Earth 90 degrees to you. I'm vertical. And I unload the airplane and watch the altimeter spin. And once I saw myself going down below 150 knots, I go back to the AOA again and start pulling over the top to make sure I don't exceed 15 in a single attack. Anything over that, I'm basically in buffet, and I'm not getting my most efficient turn in the airplane in the vertical. And that's how the airplane was very good in the vertical compared to other stuff out there. So that's the best we can do it. What do you think about China's new line of jet fighters and its radar missile systems versus U.S. NATO? Again, you got to realize that the Chi-Coms are beating their chest. They make it sound like they're 10 feet tall. They haven't been involved in anything. We've not seen them in action doing anything. So they're pretty bad on paper, but again, I'd be curious to see if they can put their money where their mouth is. That's just my rough guess on it right there. The Russians we've seen, because we've seen them across the fence over in East Germany. We've seen them in Syria. We've seen them basically, in Korea and stuff. We've seen how they train by the people they fly with and train. But the Chi-Coms, you don't really know. Don't really know. Okay, what is the most G-force you've ever experienced? I said before 12 and a half, and the Tomcat once. See here, Steve Lehman, as per Chief Engineer Mike, whoever, Grumman Engineer CEO, F-14 was so good and vertical, and they had an issue because of the very high lift drag ratio, only 44 pounds square foot wing line. I have no idea. I'm not a numbers guy. Don't know. Don't care. What was your max sustainable G? The F-14 say at sea level or 15,000 feet. Well, legal-wise, 6.5, but I'm sorry you caught me. I violated that numerous occasions, and I'm still here to testify. And the F-14 I flew, typical Grumman Ironworks, it wasn't bothered. What's your favorite World War II airplane? I gotta say probably the F-8F Bearcat. I've never flown it. I would love to. I've seen it flown a couple of times. Awesome airplane, and I think basically, it's probably unbeatable in the air. Okay, how did you compensate the F-14's adverse yaw and adverse roll? Well, I didn't really see it as a problem. I mean, you never fought the airplane unless you had both stab op and stab out working, because the airplane and the designers of Grumman knew that yaw in the airplane was a big deal. You've got both engines very, very wide apart. If you lose one, you need compensation to help drive the airplane so you don't lose it. That's why you had a yaw stab out and a yaw stab op, two SAS systems to control the yaw in the airplane. The roll, In fact, when I was going through Top Gun, part of the ACM checklist was turn your roll SAS off. Well, about my second hop, one of the guys grabbed me and says, "Hey, are you turning your roll SAS off?" And I said, "Yeah, it's all part of the ACM checklist." He said, "Don't. Why decrease your roll rate on an airplane that rolls crappy already? Leave it on and don't be a hamburger." And that's what I did. So I never turned my roll SAS off. So I don't find having a slow roll rate that big a deal. I mean, roll rate, if you do things unloaded, because I can go out there right now and I'll beat you in a rolling scissors in the airplane because I know how to roll my airplane better than you. I can do it unloaded. That's the answer to that one there, basically. Let's see here. Would thrust vectoring have been worth, the extra weight and complexity for the F-14 or the F-16, for that matter? Probably not, because the weight added probably really wouldn't have increased it that much, such. So I don't think technology-wise wasn't quite there yet for that. Probably not. What do you like to do in your free time? Well, I did 25 years in the Navy. I made 7 cruises. I retired. I went to the airlines. And the airlines, you're a junior until about your 20th year. Well, I retired from the airlines at age 65, about my 19th year. So I worked every weekend and every holiday through those 19 years. So what I do now is I do nothing. I'm home here for my 3rd Thanksgiving in a row off. Before that, I had worked every single Thanksgiving for the last 18 or 19. I'm taking my kids to Thanksgiving tomorrow, my 21-year-old, my 17-year-old, for the first time in about 15 years. So that's what I do. I try to spend time with my kids when I can. Other than that, I don't do much. Let's see here. Louis Rao. I had my first flight with Okie and VF-101 in 87. Wow. And we're still friends? Maybe we're not friends. I don't know. I don't remember you, buddy.
You skipped a few, Dad.
No, actually, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, free time. I got it.
Oh, crap. I thought you
were. Yeah. Hopefully, Louis, you had a good time, buddy. Where'd you go, pal? What squadron? I'll get that later, probably. Okay, Roger Majan there. Since stripped out Navy F-16M was simulating MiG-29s, what was F-14A BD strength in a real fight against MiG-29? 1991, there was such exercise F-14 against Luftwaffe MiG-29. Yeah, I read that. And it was an Air Force guy flew it. He was extremely arrogant. I'd like to put him against myself or somebody else, high-time F-14 guy, known good driver. He wouldn't be quite so arrogant. You got to realize your average fleet guy, the most competent time you are when you deploy ACM-wise is the day you leave on cruise. Each day that you're on cruise, because you don't do ACM almost at all anymore after that, you get pretty lousy at it. So you're on cruise and you have some beach debt and you're going to go up someplace and fight Joe Gigolo Air Force guy flying a MiG-29 who has flown out that base for probably 3 years. In that case, he had. And flying against fleet F-14s, dragging around Phoenix rails and drop tanks. Guess what? I can tell you what's going to happen. He's going to clean their clock because the guys themselves aren't real good anyway. I'm sorry. So put Mr. MiG-29 guy against a high-time driver, either an A or a B, I'm certain that he would have a different outtake on that. So I'd fight the MiG-29 in a tight fight. I wouldn't let him get, run around loose on me out there, and I start driving the fight vertical and keep him loaded up. And to make sure he doesn't fly his airplane efficiently, because most of the time, 90% of the time, guys don't fly their airplane efficiently. They don't know how to do that. Were you briefed on diversity before you flew so you didn't insult the minorities before you blew their shit away? I never flew any, I don't know, what's a minority? I have no idea. I have no clue. Sorry. How did the pilots get along with aircraft mechanics during your service in the Navy? It's with respect. I mean, the Navy is, they should call you two things, yes, sir, or your rank. And the same way with the enlisted guys. They're great guys. I was maintenance officer in 2 squadrons, VF-31 for 2 years and VF-101 for 2 years. I had 1,000 enlisted guys working for me in VF-101. I loved them all, but they all were, different. You got guys that are high school dropouts you got to work with. You got to train them. You got guys that are smarter than you and whatever else. But it takes a team working together, but everybody has to kind of know their place. And if a guy's not doing his job, I'm real simple to work for. If you do your job, we're going to get along fine. If you're not doing your job, we're going to have a problem. And guess who's going to win that one? Not going to be him. It's going to be me. Okay, most important thing for a Top Gun instructor, shit out ACM guy or greatest teacher. I'd say probably greatest teacher. If you can go out there and you kick the crap out of somebody and you can't come back and explain to them how you did it, what good are you? Seriously. So a guy that's a good teacher can go out there, and even though he may spend, because he doesn't have to go out there and kick the crap out of the guy. I mean, the job of a Top Gun guy is to go out there and teach that guy how to beat him. And so if the student is beating him, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. And if he comes back and he is an excellent debriefer and teacher, then he's doing his job as he should be. Anytime you have a senior guy or the guy with most experience is going out there cleaning the clock out of some young guy, the young guy learns nothing. He learns absolutely nothing on that. You should always go out there with the intent to give the young guy a little bit of leg, let him chase you around a little bit. Don't fight in zone 5, fight maybe in mid burner, and take a less capable airplane and fight him and then let him make his mistakes, or maybe he doesn't make mistakes. You teach him. You kind of give him give the dog a bone, basically. So that's what a good instructor does. He teaches the guy. Do you figure the F-18 can hold a candle to the Tomcat combat and combat air patrol? Whoops. God damn it. Sorry. Protecting the carrier at this. Well, no, the Hornet can't. It didn't have the legs. I mean, Tomcat can go out there and you take on 2 tanks, carry a Phoenix, and do the Victor Logic thing that somebody talked about, and you can make it work. The Hornet, he's not happy unless he's at 40,000 feet. He can't carry the loading. He doesn't carry the Phoenix. I mean, I'm not saying the Phoenix is the greatest thing right now, but back in its day, with Victor Logic to protect the carrier, it was the thing. It was the cat's meow. So F-18 can't even compare to a Tomcat when it comes to, loitering and flying around and doing the vectorologic thing and protecting the high-value assets. Okay, Jackass, the female naval aviators I knew didn't make a big deal about what non-PC terms used in the middle of a dogfight. They care way more about flight discipline and ROB. Well, they should. I mean, again, once you get in the air, I don't know if she's got breast or the guy's got a hairy chest. I don't know. I don't care. And you're totally right. They should be that way, and they should be that way in the debrief also. If they're waving their gender around your face, then they've got a problem. And that's all I'll say on that one there. Like that. VS-74. Okay, so you're over there with, Frog Burgess, LaRue, Frog Burgess, Mike Rio, Sean Hanrahan, all those guys. I talk to those guys all the time still. Great guys.
Hold on.
I'm trying to. This ain't so sensitive, Bubba. Well, no, I knew this. It just jumps up there. Do the F-14 have any ACM radar modes, i.e. bore sight, vertical scan? Could the pilot stuck? It sure did. We had PLM, which is pilot lock-on mode. We had VSL. The PLM was the PD mode, so you could hit that, and you'd actually see the diamond sweep across your HUD up there, back and forth, and it scanned, and it would lock anything up coming in head on. The VSL was a 15 degrees below the nose to 65 degrees nose up, and that was a pulse mode. And also went 20 degrees above the nose to 65 degrees below the nose. And that was a 10-degree width radar beam on the nose. So you could roll the airplane, go give me VSO high, VSO low, and the Rio actually had in the back seat had a little extender on it. He could hit that with his left hand, and that would lock the guy up, which meant at that point you now shoot a sparrow and kill the guy. So yeah, we had bore sight mode also. That basically we hit the little button up there on the dash next to me, and it would scan around the ADL Armored Data Line, and that would give me a bore sight lock as well as a seam lock with a sidewinder. Okay, do you think the new emails on the new 4 class is the way forward, or something that could cost you 4 class in combat if it went down? What little I know about it, it works, but I do know this, that they're going to make it work. You know why? Because they've already got the Ford already configured berthing-wise for the number of people they need to operate the emails. They need to put steam cats on there and normal arresting gear. They need about an additional 500 people on there. Well, guess what? They didn't make the berthing compartments for that. So they're going to make it work, and they have no choice but to make it work. And so it's one of those things that, did they screw up? I don't know yet. I've had friends of mine that worked on it, but I haven't talked to them in quite a while. I understand it works pretty well, but no one's died yet because of it. We'll see what happens. So that's the best I can probably tell you. But they cannot switch to steam cats and normal arresting gear because they've got it would take them 3 years to reconfigure the ship, and they will not do that. Zigzag, ground zero, good, bad, or worthless. Okay, camera, ECM, chaff, flares versus SAM, air-to-air weapon. You carry that stuff depending on what kind of surface to air you're going against. It may depend whether they work or not. I'm not up to speed on all the latest stuff. I would kind of probably bet that the chaff and flares probably doesn't work, but I don't know. All the surface to air stuff now is so sophisticated that I'd be kind of curious about it. Back in my day, SA2, SA3, SA5, chaff and flares worked. Problem is you couldn't carry enough. I know going through the Echo range when I was at gun school, we'd eat up 2 boxes making one run the Echo range, going against SA2s and GISH 23s and GISH 55s. And we'd be successful. we would keep them from shooting us down, but then once we got through there, we'd be out of slits. No more flares, no more chaff. So that's always going to be a problem anyway. Nobody's going to be able to carry enough. What were things that you had to be careful when flying the F-14, talking about the flight envelope? And, just know the envelope where it was. Know that when you're high angle attack, slow airspeed, you're not going to slam it out, take it out of burner and slam it to idle. That's pretty much of a dumb move. Guaranteed to get you a engine stall big time. So, but you would need to do that anyway, because every time you're flying the F-14A, you never have enough thrust, so your left arm's locked in burner. But at times when you need to take it out of burner, you bring both of them smoothly back to military and leave them there. And that's really about it. You didn't do a lot of cross control stuff except slow airspeed. If you're cross controlling the airplane at anything above about 200 knots, you're a bozo. You ought to wear a red nose and clown suit, because it's doing nothing for you. Nothing. Okay, what situation on A7 or A6 refueling F-14, and could they top you off? The A7 couldn't, because it couldn't carry enough. The A6 could, and they had the A7s, A6s at various tanker altitudes if they had them available. But a lot of times we started carrying tanks. There was no tanker fuel, so on that event you'd call up, hey, what's tanker fuel? No gas. So you spend the 1+45 cycle, even before we had the drop tanks carrying around, spend those out there, max airspeed be 200 knots. You fly the whole hour and 45 minutes, really more like 2 hours and about 20 minutes, 2.5 hours, no gas, driving around 200 knots. But that's what you did. That's the cool part about flying fighters, sometimes. Let's see here. What was life aboard the carrier like, including the flying routine? Something you kind of get into. You can go for days and never see daylight because all your flights are at night. You got to remember that you're only 1,000 feet away from your job, so it's not like all you do is fly, eat, and sleep. You don't, because Navy-wise, you got a job. And if you don't do your job, you're going to read about it. If that makes sense to you. So, you come in for your night trap. Your knees are knocking. Your hands are shaking. Get your cup of coffee. Go down and have mid-rats. It's midnight, 1 o'clock. And guess what? I got to do officer fit reps. Holy shit. I'm up all night long, and I got a 9 o'clock brief. That's life in the carrier. So you can work the candle at both ends sometimes. What squadrons did you fly with the F-14? I went through the RAG, VF-124 Miramar. I made 3 cruises in VF-51 when they transitioned from Phantoms to Tomcats. I was one of the first of 3 Nuggets, new guys that came to the squadron straight to Tomcats. I didn't fly the Phantom. And then from there, I made 3 cruises. I went to VF-101 Oceana as an instructor in the RAG. And then from there, I went to VF-31, my department head tour. I made 3 cruises there. And then I went back to the RAG as the maintenance officer and XO for 3 years back in VF-101. So I've got a lot of Tomcat experience and community in both coasts I know pretty well. Not many guys that are worth a shit that I don't know about. The rest of the guys, I don't really care. Is there a big difference between training flight maneuvers and actual combat maneuvering? Do you fly more after field and combat, or do you think field maneuvers like in training? Well, the old saying goes, you're the saying, you fight like you train and you train like you fight. Those are all the same. If I'm given an airplane and I have no adversary to go fly against, and I've been off for a while, say 2 weeks, 7 days, I'm going to take that airplane out, and I'm going to go up and go down to some area and do 0 airspeed recoveries to get my confidence in the airplane back of controlling the aircraft and departing it. Then I'm going to sit there and do 250 knot loops to get the feel of the aircraft back. And then I'm going to come back and go back in the GCA box pattern to get my IFR feel of flying the aircraft back. If I do all that stuff there, 0 airspeed recoveries, and I do some 250, 200 knot loops in the Tomcat, that's the same kind of stuff you're going to do in combat, as far as flying yourself in the extreme at the brink of the envelope of the aircraft itself. So that's what I would do. Did you ever meet a constant peg MIG on a Top Gun det sortie, OPSEC permitting? If so, how did it go? Yes, I actually had 3 different attachments When I was a Top Gun, went up there quite a bit. I flew against the MiG-17 or the A4. I flew against the MiG-21 or the F-5. F-5 I did okay with. The MiG-17 crawled in my hip pocket and lived there. I flew against a guy named Keith Sheen, who was an F-14 guy, a max combat time in Phantoms and Nam. I got to know very, very well. He was CO of VF-11 and his CO of VF-124 at Miramar, a great guy. Sheik is his call sign, and he was a master in the MiG-17. He was awesome. If you crawled in the phone booth with the MiG-17, he was going to have your ass. I later on learned how to fly the Tomcat better, and I went out there and I spanked somebody else in the MiG-17. I always did pretty well in the MiG-21. Fought against a guy named Blaze, who's now at Southwest, and he and I got in a rolling scissors, which basically you never want to get into with the MiG-21. But again, I demonstrated to him that my rolling technique in the Tomcat was pretty damn good, and we fought each other to a draw, never getting any more than probably maybe 200 feet apart the entire time. I'd be above him at 200 feet, he'd be above me at 200 feet. That went on for probably about 12,000 pounds of gas. He had to fly away, I had to fly away. I fought the MiG-23, the F-4 they call it. It was a piece of cake. You saw it, you beat it. You couldn't outrun it, though. I guarantee you that. If he wanted to run away from you, he was going to run away from you. Yeah, they had Max Q on it, big Tomansky engine there, and he was gone. So, yeah, yes to your answer, a lot. I knew a lot of guys that flew them out there also. Let's see here. I've heard of 14 pilots using off-the-shelf police speed gun detectors as raw. Any truth? Well, we didn't use off-the-shelf. We used NavAir stuff. It came off the shelf. After my first cruise, and we were up in Iran, the Iranians had IHawk. They still have IHawk. And nothing we had in our system would show an IHawk that would go active on you. So we came back off the cruise. Some guy got the wild idea, hey, we'll get these fuzz busters and put them on the airplane. Well, we put them on our airplane, went over to Yuma, myself and a guy named John Nathman, went over to Yuma, two of us, and we dueled a IHawk site for about an hour and realized that it would show up and we would see it, but we'd be dead. And no matter what we did against the IHawk site with our raw gear, with the fuzzbuster, we called them, they were mounted on both sides of the glare shield up on the dash. All it really kind of did was kind of, again, block your view a little bit. That's about all they were worth for. Anytime that you come in behind a mountain or a hill or whatever, and you'd be clear, as soon as you became clear on the other side of the hill, the IHawk site would go active and it could shoot you. So we gave the Iranians a pretty damn good system, which I'm quite sure they've compromised now with the Russians. Let's see here. How slow was the F-14 HUD, and was the HUD any use for landing carrier? The F-14 HUD was great air to air. It was a piece of junk for carrier, CQ, for landing. The F-14D HUD, because it got smart, was an excellent HUD used for carrier work. So the F-14D had an awesome HUD to be used aboard the carrier, but the F-14A, the B HUD, was dog squeeze. It wasn't worth anything. So when I came aboard the ship, I turned my HUD off. I didn't need it, didn't want it. It got in my way. I know you're proud of the Tomcat, driver, but any opinions of the A7 Corsair? Yeah, okay. Those guys that flew the airplane, they loved it. You got to realize anybody that flew an A7 Corsair or any kind of attack puke is a frustrated fighter pilot. He wanted to be a fighter pilot, but his mom and dad knew each other, so he was destined to be an attack puke. But the airplane is a great airplane. Those guys can put bombs anywhere. The last time I looked, the Earth doesn't move. So bombing is not nearly as hard as flying a good ACM airplane. That's why the A7 guys were all so happy to go F-18s. So that's why they were very pro F-18. Now they got an airplane that got some burner in there. So, yeah, the A7 guys, they're good guys, and it's a good airplane. Okay, you almost wet your pants over Randy Cunningham. Man, I'm not sure I'd have gone that far. Jack Raleigh flew the A7 in the Air Guard. Excellent. So you flew the A7D. D. I'm familiar. Yes. Did the F-14 have any nuclear capabilities, air-to-air, bombing, etc., during your tours? It never did, never has, and no. When they were loading nukes on the ship, the F-14 guys all went to our beds and we slept. Let's see here. What did you think, Jack? It was a good old man's airplane. Okay, any comments about Dick Commander Trimble smoking the SU-22? No. I mean, he was trained well. He procedure-wise good. And again, the SU-22 guys, I mean, they're limited in their knowledge of what's going on. I mean, that's why I say that the Russians have zero, command and control of what's going on out there. They showed how anemic they are in that area. So, I mean, any self-withstanding fighter guy would have been held to pay to get shot down. But it's like shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, the guy didn't know he was there and he shot. So, don't blame the guy. Good kill. If you had a chance to fly another fighter, what would it be? Probably F-15, probably. I like to fly in that. Good airplane, the right hands. Real cool. Okay, A6 Prowler still flying in a combat role with you, and what did you think about the A6? Hey, the A6Bs were a high value asset. We need those guys. Those guys have endless capability of doing stuff, as we're seeing now and have seen through Desert Storm and through Syria and the whole 9 yards. So it's a great asset. I think they're limited now. They should have kept the A6B and not gone to Growlers and Hornets, because that's a downgrade. But again, politics plays into it. Boeing wanted to sell the Navy a bunch of more Super Hornets, and the Navy, again, don't always promote the best and brightest. That's all I'll say on that one. Have I flown any Russian aircraft? No. Okay, I see another here. Okay, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What do you think about updating older fighters like MiG-21, F-16, F-15 versus buying newer jets with state-of-the-art missile radar systems? The airframes F-15, F-16 are well worth, upgrading. MiG-21, why? It's like putting a 500 horsepower AA dragster engine in a Model A car. Why? I mean, it's limited to fuel. It's limited with the radar. The F-16, F-15 are both geared for enhanced radars and missile systems. The MiG-21's not. Okay, what is the smell inside a Tomcat? When I think about it, I imagine something like metal and kerosene, and more like butt and balls. You got the guys sweating in the cockpit, sweating in the seat. It's not rose petals, So, I will say I have flown several brand spanking new ones from the factory, and they do have the new car smell, which lasts about maybe 3 flights. After that, you're smelling, the last guy's whatever he sat in or underwear or whatever. So it's not like you think it is. Why do you think the F-14 was so feared in combat, according to positive? They're just strong like Mike Rabins and Dale Snodgrass and 5 or 6 stories, all of the MiGs would turn around and bug out. And as I said earlier here, the big F-14, 5,000 watt radar, when you would turn nose on to any Russian aircraft with their Serena gear, it would light their gear up. And because the Iranians have been so effective against the Iraqis with their F-14s, they pretty well thought that as soon as an F-14 vectored on you, they were going to die. So when they got their Serena gear lit up and they knew what it was, because nothing else lights up their gear like an F-14, they would haul butt. So I'm sorry. That's kind of where that came from. Have you flown any Russian aircraft? No, I have not. I've sat in aircraft. I sat in Viktor Bukachev's Sukhoi in 1990 at the Oklahoma City Air America Air Show when he was doing his air show and I was doing my air show in the Tomcat. I sat in his airplane. Pretty cool. Big airplane. Big airplane. Okay, let's see here. Okie, do you fear the old school carrier groups with Tomcats, god damn it, were more effective than the present day F-18 multi-role? Probably no. No, the A7s, A6s were pretty well limited with what they could do and their capabilities as compared to the F-18. As weapons have gotten more technically based, you need airplanes that also are technically advanced. And the A7s, A6s were not in that category. So as the weapons advanced, the airplane had to advance, and the F-18 legacy model had the growth potential as well as the F-18 Super Hornet with the advanced potential. So yeah, we need the Hornet out there doing its thing. Was there rivalry between squadrons?
I think it's
rivalry between squadrons, and how did it manifest? Yeah, it did. Brand X is always the other squadron that you're flying against, fighter squadron, and you knew all the guys in there because either you trained them or they trained with you or whatever, and you always wanted to do better than they did. And you always wanted to outfly them, and on the ship, the only way you really did that was out-sortie them. So if they planned for 20 sorties that day and you got 21, all right, that's good, for whatever reason. So yeah, and then once in a while you hit the beach and you might end up in the same bar, and sometimes that could be not a good deal. Okay, here, what do you think about Carol Hultgrave? Okay, I know all there is to know about her, and I'm sorry to say she should never ever been put in the position she was put in. If she hadn't been put in that position, she'd be alive today. But the Navy and all their inept wisdom wanted to be the first in the block to have a girl in combat, a girl flying a combat aircraft, and they did that, and they pushed her right into her casket. So that's unfortunate. It was mishandled from the squadron level on down. It was a bad deal. Navy showed their stupidity in that deal. So, did you ever fly any air demos, air shows, F-14? Yes, I did. I flew the A and the B, and again, I'll tell you right now, below 5,000 feet, the A is every bit the monster the B is. Again, the A with the TF-30 engines, it likes gulping air, and it had all the air it wanted down low, and we had the engine supports in both engines are turnbuckles. You had about I think about 6 of them in each engine that held the engine together inside there, and then in the airframe. And it wasn't unusual after a couple of air shows to open up the engine bays and look up in there, and the turnbuckles were no longer round; they were elongated. And that's because you were putting 7, 8 Gs in the airplane, and they were stretching the turnbuckles. So yeah. Did you have any knowledge on the JAS-39 Gripen and its ECM capability? I heard it was very capable in Swedish service. I have no idea. It looks pretty cool, but that's all I know. When the F-14's wing sweep and speed increases, I heard there is a bladder or something in the center box that helps. Yeah, it's called the airbag. And the airbag actually works off your air system of the airplane. So as soon as you crank up, it blows air into the bladder of the airbags on the airplane, which allows the wings to sweep over those. And if you don't have any air in those, or the bladders have holes in them, you can't go above 300 knots. But that was never, ever a shortcoming. The bladders always worked, never had any problems with those, and they work great. Do you have any sons and daughters who are also skilled, knowledgeable pilots? I have a 21-year-old son who just got accepted about a month ago to go in the Aviation Officer Candidate School for the Navy to start his pilot training in July. He graduates from William & Mary here in May, and he's extremely excited about his potential of going off to be a F-35 pilot. What's your opinion of the F-35 Charlie? I think it's awesome. I've flown the simulator quite a bit a long time ago, but I keep track of it. I got several friends of mine that have flown it. They all love the airplane, and it's like any airplane that's brand new. It's growing pains, and you can't always listen to the press because they don't know anything what they're talking about. They also never want to take your opinion from some test pilot guy, because a test pilot guy is not a fighter pilot. He's a guy that sits there with a slide rule and a compass and whatever and makes big equations. We need them, but not when it comes to assessing the aircraft's capability as far as the ACM goes. Okay, at what speed do the wings of the F-14 start to move back in auto mode? Probably about 300 knots. They'll start easing back a little bit. But you got to remember, down low, the wings almost never ever come back because it always senses at whatever airspeed and altitude you are, the best wing position for your maneuverability. So a lot of times I would come in down low or say 10,000 feet. I'd meet some F-15 guy. I'd put my wings back manually, go by him like I was doing Mach 12, and then slap on a bat turn, put the wings in auto, and I'd turn right through his tin can back there. He's going like, holy Christ, how'd that happen? And I go like, oh, you met me at Mach. And I said, no. It appeared I was going that fast. I wasn't. So I use them once in a while to deceive. Let's see here. Did any USSR bombers ever fly over the fleet during your tours? Read it happen many times. One crashed after a low pass. Was there any cases where the Navy was surprised to recon training raids? Out of my 7 cruises in Tomcats, I always flew, and the Badgers never overflew the carrier unless one of us was on it. I've been on, as soon as you pass Guam or past Wake Island, you're in the Bear Range. As soon as you get over to England, north of England, you're in the Badger Bear Range, especially up into the Vesta Fjords in Norway up there. But we always knew when they're coming, and we'd always glom onto them no closer than 200 miles, no further out than 200 miles. We'd see them further out there, but we would only go on at 200 miles and stay on there the entire time. I've flown on the tail section of a Bear with my wingman myself, Chris Gazelle, both of us up there together, flying his wing on the tail, solid IFR at 36,000 feet. And the little Gomer in the back there was, they're off of Comron Bay. He's back there with his shirt off, stripped down to the bare meat there, showing us his Playboy magazine and his Jack Daniels bottle in the back. Kind of cool. Nice guys most of the time. Do you always fly the same aircraft? No. I wondered because the name and call sign is always painted below the cockpit. I couldn't tell you which airplane had my name on it. It wasn't a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's only a big deal to you guys because we really don't care. And so, yeah, I never knew. Never knew. Wasn't a big deal. Wasn't a big deal. Let's see. What was your favorite airframe to fence against in direct aerial combat training? Probably a well-flown Super Fox. It was always pretty intriguing to fight someone who was good in the airplane, and it really kind of stretched your abilities and your capabilities of your airplane. So I always liked flying against the Super Fox. Did you have auto land on the F-14? And I hear talk about magic carpet in the F-35. Do you know anything about this that you can talk about? We had ACLS Mode 2 of the Tomcat, but it was a manual force link in the back of the turtleback. I've got one landing, not the carrier, but one landing in Oceania using the hands off, and the stick moved like it was on fire. I mean, it's pretty amazing the corrections that the airplane senses to put you through. But once you landed, just any kind of vibration or whatever would knock the force link out in the back of the airplane, and you no longer were capable of doing ACLS Mode 2. The F-35, Magic Carpet, all I know is that it kind of locks you up and it links up with the aircraft through data link and it smooths things out. That's all I know about it. You know, it's so much easier now to fly at night than what it used to be. Let's see here.
Right there, Dan. Right there.
What was the most funny thing you saw involving an F-14 in flight? I remember being on an ACM flight, and we're out there on a 2V2. I got the student in my wing is a guy named Peter Ill. Now, I'll give you one guess what his call sign was. His call sign was Sick Dick. Good guy. He's out there fighting the airplane. And I remember him being pure vertical with the A4 chasing him uphill, and he's literally ballistic on top at about 25,000 feet. At that time, we were carrying flares to, on the airplane just for simulation for the students to use to defeat missiles. And he was putting out flares, and because he was ballistic, the flares would go straight up and then bounce on the belly and, and roll down the front of the airplane. It was hilarious. I told him later on, I said, I think you probably still died. So that was pretty funny. Let's see here. Great, remember seeing the triangle extension in the magazine schematic when I was younger, but it was never noted. I have no idea what that is. Let's see here. I know the ETC could take control of F-14s if necessary. Did you ever know of any circumstances happening? No. Any self-respecting fighter pilot will never let some E-2 guy control his airplane. He can control him statically, on radios, but as far as taking control of the aircraft, no. What would you say was the greatest strength of the F-14? Probably it was Grumman Ironworks. It was almost impossible to tear up. I mean, it really was a sturdy airplane. You could have guys come in and plant the main mounts, plant them on the flight deck, and still bounce into a four-wire to fly. I mean, it's just a very, very strong airplane. It was just a beast, Again, it goes by the fact that Grumman Ironworks. Did you use F-5s as aggressor training as they seem to be similar? We did use F-5s. And again, the F-5 is just really a force multiplier because they never go down and they're pretty easy to maintain, but they really can't do anything. I mean, they really, if I couldn't beat an F-5 and an F-14, I'd turn my wings in or a Hornet or anything else. Let's see here. We can see many top secret videos about reactive UFOs and cosmic aliens who have visited our Earth from their far galaxy by 24 starships with 144 astronauts. Here's yeah, I'm actually one of those guys. I came from the planet Pluto. I'm only here for a short time. So, yeah. Did you fight against the F-15C? I have. I fought many F-15Cs, and I love fighting F-15 guys. I love fighting Air Force guys. It's just amazing. What were the biggest DACT strengths which you would do to counter in both the F-14A and the F-14B? I would try to, if I was F-16, I fought them. I try to stay loose. I try to keep my knots up, keep the F-14 turning hard, and then again, once I get that going there, where he's basically slow and turning slow, I start driving the fight in the vertical. And once that happens, I pretty well own him. People have a strong tendency not to fight in the vertical because it kind of gets them screwed up in the head. So 95% of the people will not use the vertical to fight. So guess what? When you're out there fighting the airplane and you're making a level turn and you look across the horizon, you see one, you see two, you see three guys. If someone's going vertical, guess what? You don't see them. They're up in the stratosphere. They're in the sun, whatever. So that's me. Okay, Magic Carpet is the F-18 system based on dynamic lift control of the F-35. I have no idea. You're far smarter than me, Bubba. Okay, Magic Carpet is flight or dynamic JPAL, ISS guidance that links to. Yeah, okay,
just read that.
I know. Most embarrassing mishap. Let's see here. I'm trying to think here. My Rio, young Gar Williamson, who's no longer amongst us, was on my second cruise, his first cruise. And I've never in my life, no matter how long the flight is, I've never ever pissed in the cockpit. I never carried a piddle pack. I didn't carry some truck stop helper crap. I just didn't do it. Well, he did. And once you start peeing in the airplane, you can't stop peeing because every flight we go on, he'd pee. And I didn't know that he was doing that. I didn't care. I didn't want to smell it. And one day we're getting out of the cockpit, and his little bag broke back there in his back seat. He goes, "Oh, gee, what do I do now?" I go like, "You clean it up, pal. Not the plane captain. You. So you go down below. You get some wipes up here, some shit, and you clean it up, pal. Over to you." So that's about the most embarrassing thing I can think of for him. Okay, which fighter was the best in a slow speed below 250 groveling fight? I heard the F-18 was the king of the slow, super slow. Probably so. Probably so. I would say that if I was a big flap kind of guy fighting a Hornet like that, I would probably be able to beat it. But I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to get in that environment with a Hornet down slow like that. So you're probably right. Only two guys I know, I won't mention their names, are superior when it comes to fighting with the full flap stuff. And I'm quite sure they can probably gobble a Hornet. I've beaten Hornets many times before by, again, driving them slow, getting them cocked up, and then I'm using the vertical against them. So, you know, there's same way to skin the cat, there's different ways of doing it. Do you have any experience with aviation simulators available to the public? If so, what is your opinion? I'm an 18, 19-year airline guy, so I've been in the best sims that money can buy. So I'm not really sure. Those you can't afford, so I'm not really sure what you want my opinion about when it comes to simulators.
Like Jane's or something. You played Jane's.
I guess I've done Jane's, I guess, probably with an old computer. It was pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So that's all I really kind of know. Let's see here. What does it mean by going ballistic? Ballistic is when you're basically going pure vertical and you're out of knots and out of ideas. You put controls into the airplane and nothing happens because you're going straight up and there's no airflow over the system to do anything, and now you're kind of along for the ride. So you quietly, easily reach over to your harness lock your harness because you're fixing to swap ends, and probably take a bite out of the dash of the cockpit there with your face, and then ride it back down again. So, you know, that's what ballistic means. Okay, what was your primary navigation system? TACAN, INS? INS, pal, all the way, INS. TACAN, too easy to get MIG'd. MIGs mean when somebody else dials your TACAN in and takes control of it. So we always use INS, and we had ways to update that. And of course, later on, GPS. GPS is the only way to go. Your most memorable moment flying the F-14? Well, I guess I was doing the air show at Lucas, Scotland. I had my skipper in the back seat, and we were up on cruise on the Vesta Fjord, and we got an invite to come down to the Lucas, Scotland air show. So I was qualified air show pilot, so my skipper flew in my back seat, and the CAG flew down in an A6. He was a BM. So we both of us flew down out of Vesta Fjord down to Lucas, Scotland. And of course, they came in ahead of me. The air show people there wanted me to come in and do a quick demo. They call it demo. Are you there? You know, demo or display. And demo is you land, and the display is you park the airplane. Demo is you do something. So they wanted me to come in and do something. So I said, okay, so the airfield's yours. So I came in at about just below Mach, about 590 in mil, had the wings back, and I put the glove vanes out because you get great vapes. So I came in about 100 feet, and my game plan was do a tuck under 270 brake. In other words, I was going to pitch up about 1 degree, roll left for 270 degrees, and then do a right-hand brake, and do that at 100 feet. And so I got there, I came in, I was going in speed of heat, like I said, just below Mach, pitched the nose up to some gnat hair, rolled left. Well, when you do that, you're going that fast, and the wing's back, the glove vanes are out, because the airplane is smarter than I am. It says, if you roll the airplane real hard, you might over torque the stabs of the airplane and twist the airplane. So I will limit you to 1/4 stick throw. So guess what? I come in, raped ape, King Kong, hair flowing, I'm God. And I pitch up and do this tuck under brake, and I slam the stick over, and 1 potato, 2 potato, 3 potato. Next thing I know, 3 seconds have gone by, and I'm inverted at 100 feet, and all I see is the ground below us. And I'm going, and I say to my skipper in the back seat, I say, and I will never do this ever again. And I rolled out and pitch broke and landed. And of course, people are going ape shit, going, holy shit, Jesus Christ, that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, I had my knees buckling. My skipper thought it was awesome. He was clapping me in the back of the head and hugging me. Oh, what a great job. He didn't realize I basically pissed in my pants. So, yeah, that was my most embarrassing time. Memorable. Yeah, thanks for comment from Grum. Yeah, Grumman's the best, pal. Grumman's the best. Let's see here. Nightmare. Okay.
Scroll up. Yeah, there you
Okay. Is the Cat B a rate or radius fighter? Not sure what you mean there, partner. I'm sorry. Is there a particular Tomcat bureau that means more to you for a particular reason? If so, why? Since I've been in this kind of world where you guys all live and die by bureau numbers. If they were important to us, we'd have had the bureau numbers written bigger. So I have no clue. Side numbers don't mean anything. Bureau numbers don't mean anything. They're all written down in my logbook, which I have 6 logbooks together here because I got 6,000 hours. But no, not any one airplane over another one. I'm curious to hear how useful was the Rio when Tomcat's being attacked by missiles. I tell you what, I've been in that position like that before, and having another guy out there and you're working together. My 2 cents worth is there's nothing better than a good Rio and nothing worse than a bad Rio. But when you're out there working together in unison, you're avoiding left and right. I mean, more than once, I have been jumped by 3 guys going through strike FARP with my Max Dugan, my Rio young guy in the back seat, calling him Mad Max. And he's back there basically talking my eyes on the airplane, talking me through maneuvers. And I'm literally responding to him. I can't see the guys because they're working above me and behind me. And I'm literally shadow fighting the airplane with his calls in the back to where I finally get all 3 aircraft on one side of me. Then I said, okay, Max, I've got them all 3. Thank you. So, yeah, good Rio is another pair of eyes. It's great. Would you agree Top Gun movie's real star was the F-14 and not Tom Cruise? Yes, exactly. Exactly right. Totally. What were the best BFM tactics for an F-5 pilot flying against F-14 and F-15s? Get lost. That's your only tactic. If you go out there and turn either 2 circle or 1 circle against an F-5 or F-15 or F-14, they're going to gun your brains out. It's your best bet to blow through at Mach and then go pure vertical to the moon, up into the sun, and hopefully lose sight of you. And chances are they probably will. Then you come down and you shoot somebody. That is the only recourse an F-5 has. That's my last shot for the credits rolls is 2 Tomcats, not Mr. Cruise. Yeah, okay. Okay, here. F-14's whole airframe was a lifting body. It actually generated more lift.
That's not a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Did you ever fly against? No, I knew Bug Roach real well. Bug was a great guy. He wasn't a fantastic driver, but he was a great LSO and a great human being. And yeah, I know Bug and I were in the RAG together and 124 at the same time. So I know Bug real well, and I know a lot of Bug stories. And he's a good shit. He was unceremoniously killed in VF-126 because they were a crappy squadron and they didn't do their maintenance right. That's what killed him. With the release of the new super realistic F-14A simulator DCS world, what would you give as golden tip for dogfighting the F-14s? Keep your knots up, don't turn unless you got them all in sight, I guess, basically. Yep, F-15 to the one wing landing, yep, yeah, I knew that. Johnny Ellis, look it up. F-1491 was in a mid-air collision with and was able to cruise at only 300 knots with one wing and like the 15. At the same time, yeah, it was, yeah, I don't know about that one. Great air show story, thanks. Article, the aviation, early on.
Just keep going until you get into actual question. Those are all statements.
Yeah, okay. Doesn't want to go up anymore.
Does it not?
Oh, sorry.
Just use that.
Okay, I'll do that. Man.
Yeah. So the next one is right there. Which is the better HUD system?
Which is the better HUD system? The original version of the A model or the later, more original version of the? Yeah, I flew the B also. The B I flew same HUD as the A. The D had a superior, and I mean underlined superior HUD over the A and the B. Did you operate off CV-60 the Saratoga? No, I did not. I operated off the Forstall, which is the same class of ship. Can you tell a story where you felt really cool as a fighter pilot, just feeling like, damn, I love my job type thing? Yeah, in the Oak Club, about half hammered with 2 girls asked me to go home with them. That's when I felt really cool. Let's see here.
Tell us about your first trip. Right?
Okay, first CV trap in Tomcat. Yeah, just by the time you go, you're ready to go. You're trained. I mean, it's a no-brainer. I flew with a guy named Fred Brown, who was an A5 Ran. Good guy, good old country boy, real slow talking. And I remember my second night trap. First night trap was no comment. I got really nice. I got an okay on it. Second night trap, Fred's going like, hey, okay, we get in here close. I'm going to tell you when to go for it. And so Fred would go, water, steel. He'd yell. Invariably, I used down DLC right into a one wire. And the LSOs knew that. And Mike Richardson was the LSO. And he said, Fred, stop talking to the lieutenant. So that was into that one there.
Here, just scroll up because new comments are coming in. So now scroll up.
Okay.
So right there. Question about the F-111.
Okay, well, what did you think about the Air Force fighter? Yeah, great airplane for what it did. I mean, the system's awesome. The thing can go so fast, so low.